Good afternoon. Welcome to Black Men Excel. Today's panel discussion is on the theme of Operation Prosperity, Building Black Wealth and Financial Empowerment. My name is Allan Boomer. I'll be your host today. I'm the Chief Investment Officer and founder of Momentum Advisors based in New York City. We're a full-service wealth management and financial planning firm. Our two amazing guests today are Mr. Steven Caesar. He is the Global Head of Compliance Audit at PayPal, also the co-head of the Amplify Employee Resource Group. We also have Ramon Ray. Ramon is a renowned author and serial entrepreneur. We're so excited to get started. Welcome, gentlemen.
It's great to be here, Allan. Thanks for having us.
And I'm glad to be here too. It's always good to talk with, learn from the Black enterprise community. So thank you. I look forward to sharing today.
So my first question is, on this topic of financial empowerment, Black men excelling, what made you guys want to join the panel today? I'll start with Steven.
Well, I have a very interesting background. I grew up in Ghana. I grew up in a very poor family, and I landed here in the United States with only $60 to my name. Growing up, I knew nothing about investing. Actually, that was not part of the vocabulary growing up because we didn't have money to make ends meet, let alone put money away for a rainy day or invest. And I landed here, and all of a sudden I noticed the opportunity that was available to me here. And so my entire time here, the last 27 or so years that I've been here, I've been learning. And anytime I have the opportunity to share what I've learned, especially along the lines of, financial wellness and investing, I want to be able to share that with others. So when this came up, there was no other way but to just jump on the opportunity and share a little bit of what I know. And I must remind you that I'm still on the journey learning about this.
That's great. And Ramon?
Yeah, I echo what Steven said. We have a very, very parallel path, except I didn't come from Ghana or have $60 in my pocket. Other than those small details, I do understand what Steven's talking about. And I think that the two things I will say and add to that is, yes, me growing up as well, wonderful middle-class, two-parent families, beautiful family who love me. But this aspect of wealth building, I'm only now, I must say, Allan, even having started two companies, sold two companies, only now understanding it. So real estate, or other investments, even mutual funds. I could barely spell 401k. So that's why I'm excited to be here and share the little that I know. And as you said, Steven, I agree with you. I'm still learning. And so that's why I'm excited to be here. Anytime I can share the little bit I have with somebody else and help them, it's a good day.
So gentlemen, we all hear the stats about the wealth gap, the racial wealth gap, the notion that other races have significantly more wealth than the average Black family. But I get the sense in this audience, in this group, you guys are bucking those statistics. What are the things that you guys are doing in your own households to make sure that you're not a part of that negative stat? Steven?
I mean, for me, it just goes back to the basics, right? Which is making sure that you are looking for opportunities by way of jobs that are the right opportunities for you to earn an income that will allow you to invest. So that's where it starts. And I think a lot of us spend the time trying to think about, okay, I need to be an entrepreneur in order to be able to make it, right? That is great. And I think that some people are made that way and they are meant to be entrepreneurs. But there are a lot of companies out there that are offering a lot to their employees to help them become well from a financial perspective. And I think that when you have an opportunity to work for a company like that, you should embrace it. So that's where it starts. Then there are some other basic things that we all have to do. We have to be aware of where we are spending our money. Are we budgeting? And so in my household, we budget. Now, education is one thing. We live in a time where we have a ton of resources available to us, right? To be able to educate ourselves on financial wellness. And so I take advantage of that. Then I learn from people around me. We are surrounded by a ton of opportunity to learn. And I think a lot of times we put blinders on and we don't recognize all of those opportunities. So when I encounter someone who knows a little bit more about finances than I do, I want to align myself with that person and to learn. And then the children around us, we need to continue to invest in educating them. There's statistics out there that say that you have a lot more millennials now who are investing than ever before. And the reason they are able to do that is because they have the resources and they are also taking advantage of the wealth of knowledge around them. We need to continue to invest that way and invest in the children that are coming up, because there's no point in building wealth and passing it on to kids and they are not able to maintain it and grow it, right?
I love that.
Putting that focus there is also important.
That's great. What about you, Ramon?
Yeah. And again, Stephen, thank you so much. What amazing insights. I think that's powerful. A few things that I'm trying to do on this journey. I think one is definitely education, that self-education of myself as a leader of my family, partnering and joining with my wife. That's one. Two, educating my children. Again, I don't want to make the same mistake that my parents, who I love and they loved me, but I pour into my children, save, save, save. The only way to have $10,000 tomorrow or $10 million tomorrow is to save, but also to let it do compounding and things that you'll probably know better than me, right? Investing it so it grows. So that's two. And I think three, Black families, we must spend less than we bring in. You know, we want to be ballers and own the latest and greatest and look at the Joneses or whoever name you want to give, but you can't bring in $1, spend $1.10 and expect to have wealth. It doesn't work that way. So those are a few things. I could go on and on and on, but I think really it's the education, spending less, and I think beginning the journey of investing my own money. I can't say I'm a wealthy person. Some people may say that, but I'm on the way there to be able to save and by God's grace. So I hope that's helpful for some people out there.
That's great.
Hey, Allan, if I may add one thing to that, Allan.
Sure.
I think one of the things that we forget to do is to pay ourselves first. And I think that is something that I have had to learn over time. I mentioned earlier, I grew up in a very poor family. When I started my very first job, which was working in the cafeteria at the university that I went to, the first thing that I did was to send money home because I had to support my family. And I think that is part of the social situation that most Black families have to deal with. We have to support family, whether it's our cousin or our sister. And so the money goes there. Sometimes they take loans from us and culturally, we don't even know how to get that money back. And when you don't have enough left over, how are you going to be able to put money aside and to invest? So one of the things I'm trying to do right now is to learn how to pay myself first and then support other people that need help.
That's great. I love that. I love that. So one thing that's interesting about both of you guys is that you're both on two separate paths, right? We have the entrepreneur path and we have the corporate executive path. I want to start with you, Ramon. Entrepreneurship has been a big part of your life and your wealth building journey. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. And I must say the corporate path, Stephen will tell you, it's the easier path. He goes to work all day, sits down on a couch and watches movies all day long and gets a check. So I'm sure he'll tell you that his path is just, he just comes in and plays pool. I think they do that all day at big companies, plays pool all day. I'm just teasing you, Stephen. But yeah, I think the entrepreneurial path is interesting. And definitely there are two different paths. And I'm glad Stephen said one is not better than the other. It depends on your mindset and what your comfort level is in that zone. But a few things. Here's what I like about the entrepreneurial path. I do like the freedom to chart my own course. Money agnostic, but I can choose to work with who I want to work with. I can choose to serve who I want to serve, and I can choose how I want to do that. Those are my choices. That's one advantage of being an entrepreneur. We get to make that choice. The converse of that, of course, as you both probably will know, you get punched in the face, the market's demanding, that all falls on you. There's no team, there's no proverbial water cooler, there's no whole support structure. It's all on me, as it were, metaphorically. So I think that's the difference. The last thing I must say, in the corporate world, as I understand it, but Stephen could push back on this, Not that there's a ceiling per se, but the route to getting paid more, let me put it that way, is a bit different. Promotion, besides, doing more with your money. In the entrepreneurial route, I can say, taking this red cup, you know what? Let me see how I can make more red cups, have more profit, sell it better, whatever. So I have that kind of freedom to experiment overnight and see what happens. Those are some differences I think I could illustrate for you.
So let's focus on you, Stephen. I'm going to ask you the question a little bit differently. I think there's a lot of folks that feel like entrepreneurship is one of the only routes that you can go to build wealth, but you're in the tech industry, and in technology, and specifically you're at a fintech, PayPal. There's a lot of different things beyond compensation, but beyond cash compensation and salary and bonus that tech executives have a chance to earn. And you're seeing a whole different world of wealth creation at your company and in your industry. Talk to us a little bit about the inside secrets of some of these wealth building things that are happening inside the tech industry.
No, I mean, I get very excited anytime I have to talk about the amazing things that we're doing here at PayPal. So for starters, PayPal made every full-time employee a stockholder in the company this year. And not only did we do that, we've provided financial learning programs that are available to our employees so that they can continue to educate themselves on how to manage their finances. That is amazing. I come from a place where, I mentioned I'm from Ghana. There's a saying that goes, if you educate a man, you educate an individual. If you educate a woman, you educate a nation. And I know this conversation is focused on Black men, but I would like to point out the importance of Black women in all of this. Wow. PayPal recognizes that. And as part of our mission to foster an inclusive economy, we launched the Maggie Lena Walker Award. So Maggie Lena Walker is the first Black woman to charter a bank. And so the purpose of this award is to recognize women in underserved communities who are going above and beyond to bring up the community. And I'm very happy to say that in September, we gave out 4 awards to 4 deserving women who are doing amazing things in their communities. So we are not only focused on making sure that we are supporting small businesses. I mean, we made a commitment back in June of last year on the heels of the George Floyd matter and the impact of the pandemic on underserved communities. And we committed $535 million. To date, we have invested $510 million of that money, and it's gone to places like small Black-owned businesses, as well as making sure that internally we are focusing on our employees, because you cannot go out there and serve your clients and serve the community if you don't take care of your employees. So our employee resource groups are a key part of this. A huge part of the investment was spent to bring up our ERGs because they have a voice. They have a very powerful voice to make an impact. And the transformation continues. It's a journey, right? We are still on that journey. So
that's great. You see, Ramon, you noticed Stephen didn't want to talk about the RSUs, the stock options, the deferred compensation. It's all good. Hey, let's go to you, Ramon, for a second. Sure. Like Stephen earlier talked about where he came from. Where did you come from, and how is your wealth journey different than your parents' wealth journey?
Yeah, thank you for asking the question, Allan. I wish we had more time, and if I start to cry, I won't say forgive me, but I know you'll embrace me in this conversation. And Stephen, again, thank you for what you shared, Stephen. I just want to say I think that's so important. You're right. One thing I'll add, Allan, if I may, going back to Stephen's point, is that Black men, I think one thing we can do is, in my case, at least everybody's different, but join with our ladies. And, and listen to them more. So I just wanted to say that because I know we can have I'm the man or whatever it is, but no, it's a partnership. I'm like, honey, here's the money. What should we do? I need your insight. But Allan, for sure. So I was born in the Midwest, in the state of Ohio, grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and I've lived in New Jersey for a number of years. So I think the difference is that my parents were hardworking people, which is great. But as I understand it, because we didn't have that relationship to talk much, hard work is good. Mm-hmm. But what I think, Allan, I'd love your input on this, Allan, is that I find that newer generation, as it were, not better than our parents at all. We honor them. But as we learn more, it's not just the grit, hard work. It's working a bit smarter, if that makes sense. Where our dads may have taken the sledgehammer and 8 hours pounded it. We're like, oh, let me get these dudes to bring the bricks to me already cut up. Hardworking, but so you get what I mean. So I think that's, if I could say honorably, that the slight difference. Hardworking parents, But now I'm trying to see, okay, how can I leverage and do some different things and invest my money? Back then, right, he wanted the veterans. I think there's a thing for veterans, for new families getting a home, the government gives you subsidized mortgages. That was the big thing, right, in the 60s or 50s. Let's do that for a family. Great. Today, me and Stephen and you, Allan, we're thinking about new tools that may not even been there back then.
Yeah, on that note, since you asked the question, we at Momentum Advisors are very focused on this concept of generation one versus generation zero. Generation zero was a lot of our parents. It was the notion that they really didn't have an opportunity to create material financial wealth, but they certainly had a lot of opportunity to create in us the mindset of wealth, the mindset of hard work, the mindset of sacrifice, of saving. And it's on us to do a little bit better than them in terms of our ability to now take some financial wealth and take it and create something that can be passed on to that next generation. Because for a lot of us in the Black community, we are the first generation to ever have the opportunity to create wealth in our families. And Stephen, I think, your example, I think, is a wonderful one. Talk to us a little bit more about where you came from and some of the lessons and the cultural impact of growing up in Ghana and coming here to the United States.
Yeah, I mean, where do I even start? I mean, look, at the end of the day, when you come from an environment where you look around you and there isn't a whole lot of opportunity, and you know that you're either you have two choices. You can continue to stay the course and be like everyone else around you, or you can make a decision to do something different. And for me, the decision was, okay, I need to find a way to get out of this environment because I believe that there's so much more out there and have so much more potential. And I'm blessed to have parents who supported that and didn't have any money, but they looked for the opportunity and the money to get me over here. Now, once I got here, it was on me to make it happen. So failure was not an option for me. So what that did for me was that I worked extra hard. I didn't take anything for granted, and I still don't take anything for granted. I look around me, and anytime I have an opportunity to learn something, even the most miserable of situations, there's always something to learn. I make myself a sponge and I soak it all in. And then there's that element of humility, because you cannot do any of this if you're not humble, right? So for me, that is the most important thing. So the journey here has been fantastic, and it wasn't easy. Even after getting here, there were temptations all around you, because sometimes you want to find a quick way to make the money, right? But then you have to sit back and ask yourself, is this going to get me what I need, or is that going to put me in jail? And I didn't want to be a statistic. So I had to do the right thing. And so now I'm in a position where I can pass that on to people that I mentor. I can pass it on to people that look up to me. And I still always have to remind them that you have to know where you came from. You must never forget where you came from. And you always have to have your eye on the goal, right? Because when you do that, nothing else is going to distract you or move you away from that goal.
That's great. And Ramon, I want to bring it to you for a second. Stephen used this word multiple times again, opportunity. America really is, despite all the lumps and everything bad about this country, America really is the land of opportunity. Yeah. Folks like Stephen came here, and folks from all over the world come here for opportunity. And a lot of us are born here in this country and may not see all the opportunity that exists. But talk to us about how you embraced opportunity in your career.
Ian, thank you, Allan, for sure. Thanks for being such a great moderator. Really, it's a fun conversation. I think the opportunity is there. And indeed, I want to highlight what you said. America does have sins of the past, sins that are ongoing. I want to express that for sure. But for me, what I choose to do, I see the glass half full or 75% full. So when I think of opportunities with the SBA, when I think of the opportunities we have here, when I think of a SCORE, the free consulting SCORE does, this is not another country SCORE that you can access. I think even though financial access is hard for many minorities and others, it's still there more than other countries have. 5, I think of the ecosystem of entrepreneurial support, just that you can go on a call, go here, there, Clubhouse, Facebook, whatever it is, and reach out to people like Allan on LinkedIn. Say, hey, listen, can I ask you a question? Stephen clearly has a servant's heart. 6, I think it's point 6, is that companies, big billion-dollar companies like PayPal that we want to be successful, they are using their wealth through their employees like Stephen to give back. So I could go on, Allan, but I think those are some things that I think of. I think if you have the grit and hustle, right? My company, Smart Hustle, right? If you have the grit and hustle and you're willing to learn, I think Stephen, maybe you, Allan, echoed that. We all may have been born on different, what do you call it, different parts of the race. One guy may have been 5 feet in front of me, one guy 100 feet, noting that. We all have that. You may have been abused, not abused, this, that, and the other. But once you hit 16, 20, 21, the internet's an equal opportunity for all of us. David Goggins, right? Famed Navy SEAL guy. Mindset. That's the biggest thing that will keep back any Black man.
I love it. And my hope is that the conversation today really instills some hope. Yes. It really gives people this notion that they can do it too. So on that note, I want you guys to both go back to your younger selves. Imagine advising 20-year-old you. What are some things that you wish you had known back then that you know now? What things would you have done differently? Let's start with you, Stephen.
I think it starts with, one, don't be too hard on yourself, because I think that along the way, there's the desire to be successful and all of that. And I think that we create time frames and timelines in our mind when things should happen. And the reality is that it doesn't always happen the way it is. And if you're not careful, rather than just being okay and continuing on the path, you will be discouraged. And then next thing you know, you've fallen off the journey. And so there were times along the path where I was discouraged and I was very, very hard on myself. And if I had to look back, I'll say, don't do that. There was no point. Use that as something to energize you, to keep you on the journey. The other thing that I'll also say is that there were a lot of people around me that were doing amazing things. And somehow I got caught up along the way thinking that, maybe I shouldn't really associate myself with them because they're not the same skin color and all of that. But here's the reality. They were doing something right. And so if I had to advise myself, I'll say when those opportunities present themselves, whether it's a white person or whoever, you align yourself with that person and learn as much as you can, because chances are you're going to walk away from that interaction a lot better than you went in. So those would be the two key things.
That's great. Ramon, talk to the younger self, man. I'm sure he looked a little bit different. Maybe you didn't need glasses at that age. Talk to it. What would you say to that young Ramon?
I love that question. When I was younger, by the way, I wanted to be in the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And now I do still want to be in the Secret Service on the Presidential Counter Assault Team. That's all I want to do. But I must say one thing I did right, then I'll get to your question specifically, but I want to uplift Black enterprise. I've been reading Black enterprise for years. Yeah. It and a few other magazines I would read when I was working at the United Nations before I was fired for being an entrepreneur. That's where I got my MBA, as it were, in entrepreneurship, reading from the pages of this amazing magazine. So that's one. And I think that probably the thing I would do is just to slow down a bit more. I think that's what I would do, because I must say, I'm blessed to say, Allan, that even at the UN, I read. I hung around people. So I think I would probably not change many things except just slow down a bit. I'm one of those, what do you call it? Fire, ready, aim guys. That's me. And I'll probably always be that way. That's why I have a good team around me, but probably take the time to slow a bit more, because I would have lost less money and made less mistakes, if that makes sense. But I kind of echo what Stephen's saying is I don't have any, thankfully, some people have. I didn't do too many blunders, but except I wish I would have slowed down a bit more.
That's great. Let's bring it back to this idea of wealth for a moment. I think there's a big misconception around income versus wealth. I think a lot of us focus on income. How can I make more money? How can I, and there's not necessarily a translation to wealth, right? Because I think there's also, people talk about the racial wealth gap, but frankly, there's a wealth gap in our middle class and our upper middle class, folks who make a lot of money, but don't have a lot of wealth. So on that note, Stephen, when you think about income versus wealth, like what are some things that you want our listeners and our viewers today to understand?
Well, I mean, wealth is the difference between what you have versus what you owe, right? So that is essentially wealth. And so I think for me, I think that the focus on making sure that you are paying off your debt is going to be key, right? Because If you owe so much, then there's not going to be a whole lot that you can hang on to and invest and all of that stuff, which is ultimately what will get you to wealth. So just making sure that we are taking care of our debt. I mean, the other thing that I would also say is that there are a ton of opportunities right now. Now, if you look at it, a lot of people are working in a virtual environment, and most companies have that flexibility for their employees. This is the perfect time if you wanted to engage in any type of a side hustle to do that, right? And so leverage your skills, leverage the things that you're really good at and passionate about, and see if there's an opportunity to do something on the side, which will give you additional income. A lot of companies out there also have programs where they are actually paying for people to learn, right? And I think a lot of times we get caught up in our day-to-day that we don't even take the time to find out about all of these programs that are out there. They'll pay for you to go get your MBA. They'll pay for you to learn, get a certification, or whatever the case may be. We should be taking advantage of all of these things, because when we do that, then our earning potential goes up, right? And then we can stand in front of that boss and say that, you know what, I think I need to be promoted because I know A, B, and C, right? So those are some of the things that I would like to encourage our audience to look into.
That's great. What about you, Ramon? Income versus wealth?
Yeah, for sure. And I think the greatest wealth, and I'm sure both of you all agree with me because I can feel your hearts, is our mental health, our physical health, our health, our families. Yeah. That's really most important. Those who choose faith, I think that's important. But I think what I think of it, there's 3 stages, especially referring to the entrepreneur journey, but I'm guessing it refers to even working for a company as well. There's those who are trying to get out of impoverishment. You're trying to, you could be listening to me right now. Single mother, single father, young person, you're being abused, whatever it is, and you're just eking by. You're trying to get money for bus fare. I see you. I honor you. You need to do what you can to get out of that situation. Middle America, and again, Allan and Stephen, you correct me because y'all the experts in this more than I am, but you have middle America that I would say is in the sustaining mode. We got to just work to pay off our rent, pay off our car payment. And this third phase that I'm seeing the light getting to is where, not that you're ballers and all that, but with a humble heart, you're not so worried about paying the rent today. By God's grace, that's going to come. You're thinking, how do we send 5,000 to somebody else? How do I send 10,000 to a young kid? So that, I think how I see that, if that's helpful, Allan, from that angle, survival mode, and many here could be listening to me in that. And God bless you. You need to get out of that as best you can. Then just that mode of, let's pay the rent. That's good. You got Cheerios. You got some steak every once in a while. But then that third phase, how can we bless others? How can we take our wealth and give it away?
Wow. Ramon, I love the way you frame that. And we've always got to be honest with ourselves when we're talking to Black people. Like, we're at all different levels. We all had, in some cases, different starts. And some folks started in a variety of different ways that makes us all, blessed to be where we are. And I appreciate that. But I'm going to stay on you for 1 second.
Okay.
You've done something that's unique for a lot of our audience. Like, you've not just built businesses, you've sold businesses. Talk to us a little bit about that, because I think there's a view in the Black community that when you sell a business, somehow you're selling out. That's not necessarily the case. I don't think any other race of people looks at it that way. Talk to us about building a business and selling it.
I do. And if there's a video, or maybe Allan, you and I and Stephen need to have another conversation kind of on the Black experience or something, because you're hitting at something that's very interesting there, which I won't go into now, but I think you know what I mean. But yeah, so my expertise, there's a lot of on the news and et cetera, PayPal's a big $1 billion company. I say that in a good way, Stephen. We want that, right? We need these big pillars of American society. But I think there's a middle area, Stephen, for those. So I'm going to tell you, Allan, I can't help people create $1 million businesses. That's not my gift. But I've created several businesses that generate hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue and that are highly profitable. I've done it 4 times. I'm proud of that. I'm never going to be in the front cover of whatever magazine or newspaper, as it were, meaning, it doesn't catch the headlines. But what I'm trying to get at is, yes, why did I do it? Now, I must say, some companies, Allan and Stephen, they're more for the generational long. My son and my daughter did it. Grandpapa did it. Our great-grandfather did it. It's in the family. That's great. But I didn't start there. And I think, Allan, in my DNA and mindset, I'm a project guy. By the way, I'm not, somebody asked me once, Allan, do I have a red cup company? I don't. This is my favorite coffee cup. So I'm the type of guy, I want to create this cup. I get bored easily. I know in 5 years, I want to sell this company. So if that's helpful where I'm at in my journey, I'm a project type guy in the content space, but I love to spin up place and sell it. Why though, Allan? The 4th thing I told you, right? So I can give money to others. That's what drives me.
That's beautiful. I love it. So guys, time is flying. We're in the home stretch. I've got one last question and we're going to end on this. What's the greatest investment that you've ever made? And I'll start with you, Stephen.
For me, it will have to be, so when I started working, my very, very first job, which was working in the cafeteria, I made a promise to my parents that I'm going to buy them a house. My parents have never, ever owned a house. We've always rented. There was a time that all 6 of us, because I have 3 brothers, slept in a 1-bedroom apartment. So
wow.
It was, so I made a promise to do that. And I'm so happy to say that within the last couple of years, I've been able to buy my parents a house in Ghana.
Wow.
And so for me, that is my biggest investment. And I'm so happy that I've been able to do that and looking forward to doing more and giving back to the community that way.
I love it. I love it. Ramon, what about you?
Yeah, I think the best investment I can think about, marrying my wife, which is good, and my faith in God. But I think especially as far as business, Allan, man, the past year or 2 or 3, I've had struggle paying in the past many years my taxes. Every year I get a big tax bill, 20,000, 30,000, 40, 50, almost thousand. It's been out. But since, as Stephen said, I've put money aside, or he's pay yourself. I've been paying myself first, Allan, for the first time. And you noted, right? I said, Allan, I started 4 companies, sold 2. So you'd think, Ramon, what? You've had struggles? Yes. So what I'm trying to get to, Allan, you can tell it touches me. I had a tax bill come recently. Guess what, Allan? Boom, IRS. There's your money. All of it. So I had the freedom, right? Because thank you, my man. I've been saving my, paying myself first. And now I've crossed that channel. It's not okay, but it was just mindset. I had to, you get where I'm going. So thank you for asking. That was the biggest shift.
I love it, man. And I'm proud of you, brother. I'm proud of both of y'all for everything that you guys have done. I'm appreciative of you guys sharing your knowledge and your journey today. Before we go, why don't you guys go around the horn if there's any websites or social media you want to give a shout out to so that folks can follow you?
Sure. Stephen, go for it, brother.
Well, I don't have a website, but you can find me on LinkedIn. It's my name, Stephen Caesar, out there. And then I'm also on Facebook. So again, just spelling my name correctly, you'll find me.
Great.
Awesome. And Stephen, you're so humble. I know you meant to say it, but I go to paypal.com several times a day too. So I just
and Ramon.
Yes, I'd love for people who want to get to know me better can visit me at ramonray.com, RAMONRAY, and of course, check out the good work that we do at smarthustle.com. So, but Allan, I hope you give your website, and you've been a great host and moderator. Thank you for enabling us to spend time with you and the Black enterprise community.
Great. Well, thank you. And on that note, so our website is momentum-advisors.com. We also have a podcast, The Momentum Advisors. It's on all the podcasting platforms where we just talk about building wealth and entrepreneurship and all these financial topics in the Black community. But listen, I regret that we're out of time today, but thank you all for coming. Thank you all for being a part of this conversation. Black Men Excel, thanks to Black Enterprise.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fantastic.
Thanks for having me. It's been great to be here and serve again the Black enterprise audience and help small businesses and even those who work in companies. So it's good to be here with you, Allan and Stephen, and thank you so much for having me.